Hello, I'm Catherine Spitz-Cohan, Executive Director of Film Pittsburgh, and I'm excited today to talk to the writer-director of the feature film Adam. Welcome, Maryam Touzani. I'm excited for you to be here today. Thank you for joining us. Tell us, everyone, where you are, where you're located.
Hello, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I'm in Casablanca, Morocco.
Very nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Your film really spoke to me on so many different levels. And I wanted to start our conversation today by asking you, how did you come to be a filmmaker?
I think I came to be a filmmaker because I mean, for me, it was a need to be able to express myself through films, and it's a need that I actually developed at a certain moment in my life. Because before being a film director, I was a journalist, and I used to write about cinema, and I wrote about cinema for many years, and I also shot documentaries, and I really thought that fiction wasn't for me. And then, well, there was a moment in my life where I experienced something that I felt I needed to talk about, and the only way I felt I could talk about it was through fiction, and that's how I wrote and directed my first fiction film. And that experience was the loss of my father, and I think that was definitely the turning point in my life. That's the moment when I realized, after I actually wrote the script for this first short film, that for me it was going to become a necessity in order to be able to express what I felt, in order to be able to question certain things as well in my society that I felt I needed to talk about. And so, I mean, I shot this first short film without thinking that after it I would make another short film, because I really felt that it needed to be born from a real desire. I didn't want to think about what films I would make. It had to be something visceral. And because that first experience was so visceral, I needed to wait to feel that again. And that's how it happened with my second short film, and then with Adam again. So I guess there's always a reason why, we end up doing certain things in our lives. And today I can't imagine myself expressing what I feel through any other means.
Isn't that interesting? Do you think that you share that with other filmmakers? In other words, do you think all filmmakers or many filmmakers that you connect with feel that same way, that it's a visceral connection to an idea or a story, and that they actually have to put it out there, as opposed to this idea that you mentioned, just, oh, what am I going to make next? Sort of having like a grocery list of what's next that I'll make, what's next that I'll make. It feels to me that perhaps some Hollywood films some Hollywood films feel that way to me, whereas your film feels immediate, necessary, like you were saying. Yeah.
I think it depends. Definitely depends on each filmmaker's approach to their work and to leur œuvre. And for me, in any case, it was something visceral. It was something necessary. It was something that was not becoming a filmmaker in general was something that was not thought through. Like I said, it was something that answered the need that I felt. And particularly with Adam, I mean, Adam is a film that I started writing when I started feeling my pregnancy, really, when I started feeling my child inside me growing. And that's how I started writing Adam. I didn't know I was going to write Adam. I just started writing instinctively. I hadn't in mind to write the script of a feature film, but all I felt was that there was a story I needed to tell. There were these characters that were somewhere inside me and that I needed to give a voice to. And I really didn't know what I was going to make out of all of it. So it was just really writing. And I don't know. It's just, I guess it's something very personal, and each one has their own personal approach to what they do. And this is mine. I don't think I could do things in any other manner, but I mean, I think every manner of doing things is respectable. I don't think there is a right way or a wrong way of doing things. This is just my particular way of doing
Of
things,
working, yeah.
of
Do you
working.
think you could connect though to a script that you didn't write, that was presented to you just for hire? Do you think you could do that?
I think it would be very hard. I think it
Mm,
would be very hard for me to connect to a script that I wasn't mine, unless it really tapped into something very deep within me that
right.
felt right, and that I felt really merged with something inside me. I think
Right.
otherwise I would not be able to.
Were you always a writer as a child?
Oh, I used to love writing. I always
Mhm.
loved writing. I used to write a lot of poetry. I still write. I still write poetry. I used to read a lot. I mean, I used to spend. I mean, I used to play a lot, of course, as a child. But I always had a book in my hands, and even as an adult, wherever I go, there's always a book in my bag. I started expressing myself through words before expressing myself through the image. And what was beautiful as well in what I felt was beautiful for me as a human being in my journey was just to let myself get carried by life,
Mm,
to not know necessarily where I was going, but just to follow my instinct. For the
mm,
beginning, it was really about writing, and it was about listening to other people's stories and giving them through words, which is like once again, like I said, something that I was very fond of, being able to translate things into words, and then later realizing that I wanted to make documentary films as well, because for me it was a way of giving another dimension to that as well. Going to seek that truth elsewhere, and then just letting myself get carried into fiction filmmaking almost naturally, really, because there wasn't any thought beforehand. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did.
I,
It's great to talk to you. So let's talk a little bit more about Adam. I find it fascinating. The story began when you became pregnant.
Mhm.
Um, and how did you develop these characters of these two women?
Well, the first character, Samia, I knew why I was writing her. Uh, I started writing this film, like I said before, when I started feeling my child move inside me, because that brought me back to an experience I had had much earlier. When I moved back from university, I studied in London. I spent a few years, I spent a few months at my parents' house in Tangier in the north of Morocco. And one day this woman came knocking on our door, and she was 8 months pregnant. She had nowhere to go. She was unwed, and it was basically illegal. And my parents knew that if they let her go, she would end up giving birth on the streets. She would maybe end up abandoning her child on a footstep. So they decided to bring her in and try to help her to find a solution. And very quickly they realized that there was no solution, because this young woman wanted to give birth, give her child up for adoption, and go back to her village where nobody knew that she was pregnant. And so they realized that the only way they could protect this woman and her child was by keeping her with us in the house until she gave birth, and for the time that she needed before she would leave. So I basically spent the last month of this woman with her and her child, and I observed her a lot. I spoke to her a lot, and I saw this young woman become a mother literally in front of my eyes.
Mm,
And I saw this woman try to refuse herself from loving this child because she knew that she had to give him away. And I mean, I was 22 or 23. I was at an age where I could understand certain things, but I hadn't had the experience of it myself. In any case, it was a very, very deep experience that I shared with this woman. I actually even went with her to give her child up for adoption. And I kept her inside me for 17 years. I didn't realize how deeply she had marked me until the day I got pregnant myself. Because the day I got pregnant, and especially when I started feeling the life inside of me, when I started feeling this child moving inside of me, I found myself thinking of her a lot. And I realized how terrible it must have been for her to have to give up her child, not because she did not want him, but because she had no other choice. I mean, how heart-wrenching is it for a mother to have to give up her child? How hard is it for a mother to pretend, to try to convince herself that she doesn't love the child she's bearing? And while I was there, I mean, and I knew that I was going to welcome my child with open arms because I could. because I could do that. So I just literally started writing instinctively, like I said before, and I knew why I was writing Samia. That was clear in my mind. But I did not know why I was writing Abla. And I only realized why I wrote Abla much after I finished my script. And it was while I was talking to my husband one day, and we were talking about her character, and we started speaking about it, and he told me, he's like, do you realize how close she is to your mom? You know, and then I realized how close she was to my mom, because meanwhile I had lost my father. That was a reason, like I said before, why I shot my first film. That's why one of the reasons why I started making films. And when I had lost my father, it had been something that had completely made my world fall apart, and my mom's world fall apart as well, because he was the center of everything for her. Then I realized how hard for her it was to come back to life, to live again after he passed. And for me, it was also a question of bringing her back to life. And that's why I realized why I wrote Abla's character, because she's this woman that has not been able to move on with her life, that is stuck in her past, but for different reasons as well, because she has not been able to mourn. She has not been able to mourn the man she loved, because society has also kept her from mourning him, because she has not been able to say goodbye the way she felt she needed to. She has not been able to bury him the way she needed to, because there's all these traditions that as a woman keep her from doing so. And I didn't realize in that how close she was to my own experience of death as well, and of mourning. But yeah, so these two characters were somehow inside me. I had carried them in me, and I didn't realize why Abla was there. I knew why Samia was there, but they just needed to prendre chair, to become to materialize themselves.
Wow, I'm just so glad that that happened and that you were able to make this film. Can you talk a little bit about the roles of women in your country? Meaning that at the time that this young woman came to live with your parents, if she had given birth, the child would, because it was out of wedlock, the child would have been taken away. And what would have happened then, and now what has changed in society there, if anything?
Unfortunately, very little things have changed. We have advanced. There are certain laws that have changed. There are local NGOs that have been working on the field for over 30 years to make things advance, and they do incredible work with young unwed mothers. I know this very closely because after I met with Samia, with the woman that inspired Samia, I shot the documentary for the first National Women's Day in Morocco, and it was a command documentary. But I said that if I were to make this documentary, I wanted to choose the woman I was going to put in this film. And half of this film were unwed mothers, because I've been asked to make a film where I made the successful women in the country speak, all the women that had successful careers, that had been successful in politics, etc. But I said, that's very good, we can do that. But at the same time, I want to give other women la parole. I want to let them express themselves about, things that we don't necessarily hear, women that we don't necessarily hear. So I spent a lot of time with unwed mothers in Casablanca, and unwed mothers that had kept their children through these NGOs, and I gave and through this documentary, they had the possibility of speaking and expressing themselves. And for me, that was extremely, extremely important. All this to say, really, that I have done a lot of work on the field with these women, and I've seen how these NGOs work, and they do an extraordinary job to try and help these women reintegrate themselves socially, stand on their feet, to accompany them legally as well, to make things evolve. For example, a child that was born out of wedlock then was born under X. C'est-à-dire, what that means is that he had no identity, basically. He did not exist socially. It was as if he didn't exist. He had no legal documents. Whereas today he can have legal documents. So he can go to school. Before he couldn't even go to school. He didn't exist. Can you imagine that? Today he can go to school. But on the IDs of people that have been born out of wedlock. If you look into it in detail, you know that the person in question was born out of wedlock. The X has been replaced by something else, but you know very clearly that this person was born out of wedlock. And in a society that is conservative like mine, this is the worst thing, the worst cross for a child or an adult to bear. I mean, this is very, very, very hard for a child to grow being like they call, like here, a child born out of wedlock is referred to as an wud al-haram. Wud al-haram means a child of a haram is something that is a péché. How do you say that in French? I'm losing my English. Something that is against God's haram. Do you know that word?
No, but I get the point.
It's a child of sin. Wud al-haram is a child of sin. That's how it's children born out of wedlock are currently spoken about. Wud al-haram. Being a wud al-haram in Morocco is the worst thing that can happen to a child. Being an unwed mother is the worst thing as well that can happen to a woman. This is why the film is called Adam, basically, as in opposition to Adam, which comes from Adam in Morocco, comes from Bani Adam, which means the son of Adam. Son of Adam, when you use it in the current Moroccan language, Bnadam, you refer to it to say a human being. When you say this Bnadam, it means this human being. That's why for me this film is called Adam, in reference to a human being, because at the end of the day, this child is above all a human being, and that's all that it should be, and it should have the same rights to life, to education, to dignity as any other child, whether it be born into wedlock or out of wedlock. So yeah, no, things have changed very, very little. Unfortunately, things have changed very little. It's very hard.
Has the woman that stayed in your parents' home seen the film?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew, Catherine, and that was one of my biggest concerns, was that she had access to this film. I wrote an open letter to her. You know, this woman, after she stayed at my parents' house, I remember the last day before she left. It was at that time when we still had actually took real photos and printed the photos. I remember
those days.
You remember those days? Well, I actually took some photos of her. I actually asked her if she wanted photos of her and her child before she separated from him. And at the beginning, she said no, because she thought it was going to be too hard for her, because she knew how hard it was going to be for her. So she refused at the beginning. And at the very last moment, she said, Maryam, can you actually take some photos of us? So I took a lot of photos of her and her child. And she had actually packed her bags. Upon leaving her child, she took her coach and she left. We never asked her where she came from, because we wanted to respect her desire for anonymity, to remain anonymous. And 2 years later, she came knocking on my mom's house, on my mom's door again, to pick up her photos. And she had tea with my mom. She took her photos and disappeared again. Before the film came out, I wrote an open letter to her. I wrote an open letter to her as a mother, because I, as a mother, wanted her to know what I had felt, that in my skin, in my flesh, I knew what she had felt, and that I just really wanted her to know that her sacrifice, that her pain had given birth somehow to this film. And I just hoped that it would somehow make her feel more, not heal her wound, but at least that she would have felt that this was born out of her sacrifice as well. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard from her again. Maybe she has seen it. I imagine that she has gotten married again, that she has started a new life, that maybe nobody knows that what she had experienced before, and that I guess it must be very hard for her to look back into her past. But in any case, I wanted her to know how important she had been for me, and that this was as well a tribute to her and to other women like her whose stories weren't told.
What was the response to the film in your country?
The response to the film was actually very, very good. It was very good. It created a lot of debate, and that was really one of my deepest desires, is that we be able to talk about this in a humane in a humane way, because a lot of times, I mean, mostly this kind of women, children are spoken about like statistics. It's always about numbers. It's always about, I mean, when you read them in the articles, there isn't a human face. I really wanted the viewers to go into this film and have the experience of what it was to be such a woman, to have to part with her child because she had no other choice, to feel her pain, to feel her joy as well, to feel all that she could be and what this child could be if they were together. And I really wanted it to be felt from the inside. And I was very happy to see that the reactions were so positive. I mean, of course, there's always people that will still say this is something that's taboo, this is something that we don't want to talk about, this is something that should not be done. But I was interested really in being able to shake the lines a little bit and to make people think outside of their comfort zone, and to confront them to images and feelings which a lot of times they preferred not to be confronted to, or they did not have access to. And to maybe, after leaving the theater, never look at a woman that was an unwed mother in the same manner, or a child in the same manner, maybe able to contribute as well in order to bring about some change. And I was very happy to see that there was a lot of articles after the film that were very positive. There was a lot of people as well coming out on the social networks and talking about their childhood, saying that they had been found, for example, this known Moroccan humorist that came out saying that he had been found in a trash can in Morocco. And I guess that there was something, where it was not, it made people want to talk about their personal experience, and that was something very, very,
and
very.
that's what really good independent films can do. So I thank you for that. We only have a few minutes left. I want to talk to you. The film is Moroccan's entry to the Academy Awards for this coming year, correct?
No, it was last year.
Last year, okay.
Yes.
And you have been invited to become a member of the Academy?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Isn't that just a total honor?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That was completely. That's a huge honor for me. Just to absolutely amazing. Yes.
Are there other women filmmakers that you know from your country that have been asked?
No. It was the first time. It was the first time that Morocco had a woman represent them at the Oscars, at the Academy Awards. So that was an honor for me as well, to be able to be the first woman to represent Morocco at the Academy Awards, and of course to be part of a member of the Academy Awards was a huge honor for me as well. So yes, I'm very
well.
Very
congratulations. What are you working on now?
Well, I'm working on my next feature that I've been writing. Actually, I've been writing ever since. It's strange because like I said before, I never think about what I'm gonna do. I don't like thinking. I like letting myself, get carried by what I feel inside. And I thought it was gonna be a very long time before I would write anything else. And I didn't realize that there was things inside me that just, that needed a little bit of place to be able to come out. And when Adam was finally out, I remember when I was at TIFF with Adam, one morning at 4 o'clock, I woke up because I was completely jet lagged, and there was a story that was inside, and I just started writing. That was September of last year, and yes, now I'm done with writing the script for that film, and yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing the finished film when it's ready.
Thank you,
Maryam, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful talking with you. To our Film Pittsburgh audience, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Catherine. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.